Have you ever looked at our modern world and just wondered why everything feels so brittle? I mean, we've perfected these incredibly efficient systems, from global supply chains to financial markets, but they seem to be the very ones that fail in the most spectacular ways. It's a real puzzle. Today, we're going to dig into the architecture of that fragility.
Right, so this is the big question, isn't it? It gets right to the heart of how our modern economy works. Or, doesn't work sometimes. Think about the empty shelves we all saw a few years ago, or how a single ship stuck in a canal can send shockwaves across the globe. We've streamlined everything for maximum speed and minimum cost. But it really seems like in doing so, we've accidentally made these systems incredibly easy to break. So how does that happen? Let's unpack it. For the last, half century or so, there's been one undisputed goal in business: efficiency. I mean, every business school, every consultant, every manager has been preaching from the same book. The message was simple: eliminate waste, cut costs, and make everything faster. This wasn't just an idea, it became the core religion of modern commerce.
And, it's really easy to see why this was so attractive. The whole promise of these lean systems, like the famous just-in-time model, was huge. If you keep almost no inventory on hand, you can slash your warehousing costs. You avoid having perfectly good products just sitting on a shelf becoming obsolete. You can spot defects in the production line almost instantly. And the result of all that? Well, it was a massive boost in how efficiently you could use your money.
So, and this is the crucial part, this wasn't some fringe theory. This was the absolute gold standard. Lean principles ruled the world. And they were propped up by a global economy that for a really long time was pretty stable. You could count on trade routes and logistics. This whole philosophy let us build these incredibly optimized, but, as we're about to see, incredibly fragile global systems. But all of this optimization, it came with a hidden price tag. In our obsession with trimming every last ounce of fat from the system, we also carved away the muscle and bone that actually kept it strong. We traded something really important away, and for the most part, we didn't even realize it was happening.
Okay, so let's talk about a key concept: buffers. Honestly, the best way to think about them is as shock absorbers for the system. We're talking about stuff like extra inventory in a warehouse, a spare production line that's ready to go if needed, or even just building a little extra time into a delivery schedule. When everything's running smoothly, these buffers don't look like they're doing much, but when the road gets bumpy, they are absolutely what keeps the whole thing from falling apart.
Now here's where it gets really interesting. The whole efficiency mindset completely flips this idea on its head. In the lean philosophy, these critical buffers, these shock absorbers, get a new name. They're no longer seen as a safety net. Instead, they're labeled waste. That extra inventory isn't insurance anymore. It's a sign of failure. It's something that needs to be hunted down and completely eliminated from the system.
And this table really shows you the result of removing all those buffers. There's a brilliant framework from a sociologist named Charles Perrow called normal accident theory, and he helps us understand that what we've built are tightly coupled systems. Just look at the chart. These systems have basically zero slack. They demand perfection. They're incredibly time-dependent. You can't just hit pause. And the sequence of events is totally rigid. This is the blueprint for a system that is incredibly efficient, yes, but also incredibly brittle.
So, we've basically established that in our chase for pure efficiency, we've created these super fragile, tightly coupled systems. Now let's look at what actually happens when one of these systems runs into the real world, which is, messy and unpredictable.
What you get are cascading failures. See, in a system with buffers, a loosely coupled system, a small problem, like a delayed shipment or a broken machine, can be contained. It's absorbed. But in a tightly coupled system, there is no room to absorb that impact. That small, perfectly normal failure isn't contained at all. It just smashes right into the next step in the process, and then the next and the next. It's like a line of dominoes. One little tap, and the whole thing goes down.
And the price tag for these cascades, it's just staggering. Research has actually put a number on what they call a loss amplification effect for these hyperlean companies. When a major crisis hits, the financial damage can be magnified by as much as $2.3 trillion across the whole global economy. That's trillion with a T. And check this out, because this is a really key point. The link between how lean you are and how much risk you're taking on isn't a straight line. One study found that for every 10% you cut from your inventory buffers, your financial losses during a crisis don't go up by 10%, they jump by 19%. That means the leaner and leaner you get, the risk of a total collapse grows, it grows exponentially.
So this all begs the question, right? If this is so obviously dangerous, why on earth do we keep doing it? Well, the answer is one of the most important ideas in understanding how systems work.
This fragility isn't an accident. It's not because people are incompetent. It's actually the logical result of millions of people making perfectly rational decisions.
This slide really gets to the core of the paradox. Let's break it down. On the left, you got the local view, the way an individual company sees the world. For them, the goal is simple. Maximize your own efficiency, get rid of all the slack, make more money. And hey, when times are good and stable, that works great. But then on the right, you have the global view, the perspective of the entire system that everyone relies on. And for the system, the number one goal isn't profit, it's survival. And to survive, the system needs those buffers.
This quote just sums it up perfectly. What is individually optimal is not collectively optimal. Every single company, acting in its own rational self-interest to become more efficient, is also contributing to a collective system that becomes less and less stable, less and less able to handle a shock.
So what do we do with this? If just chasing efficiency makes us more fragile, what does a truly strong system even look like? Well, this brings us to a new and I think much healthier way of thinking about strength in this complex world.
The key insight here is that this is a fundamental trade-off. There is no magic bullet. Efficiency is all about squeezing the most performance out of a system when conditions are stable and predictable. Resilience, on the other hand, is about making sure the system can survive when conditions are turbulent and uncertain. If you push too hard for one, you almost always weaken the other. Real strength isn't about being the most efficient. It's about finding the right balance between the two.
And to get there, we really have to make a big mental shift. I love this quote. It says, "Redundancy isn't waste, it's a safeguard against extinction." The very thing, that extra inventory, that spare capacity, that the efficiency gospel told us was a sin, is actually a strategic investment. It's not a bug, it's a feature. It's the price you pay to stay in the game. And please don't think this is just about factories and container ships. This exact same dynamic is playing out everywhere. You see it in financial markets built for light-speed trading, in power grids that have absolutely no spare capacity, and in tech platforms that have a single point of failure. This trade-off between efficiency and resilience, it's like a law of nature for any complex system.
Which kind of leaves us with one last thought to chew on. For decades, we have calculated the benefits of efficiency down to the last dollar and cent. But maybe, just maybe, we've been asking the wrong question all along. In a world that seems to be getting more uncertain by the day, the real question we need to start asking ourselves is this: what is the true cost